Redemption, wow, that's a big concept. That is so hard to define. What we discover is that we can't define it without a story. We discovered that we can't define it without the biblical narrative. There's creation, there's a fall, there's a moment in human history which we point to at the cross, and what we know about the Lord, saving death and resurrection until he comes again, and we celebrate that. And then we also know there is an ultimate direction, an eschatological future, an advent, a coming of the kingdom, a coming of the time when he makes all things new. There is a new heaven and new earth. In the Bible, that is represented as a city. Where we live is in between that and that. We live in between the already. Jesus came already. We know how it ends. But it hasn't ended yet. That's where we live. We live in the middle of that. We live in the middle of the chaos and the hurt and the cancer diagnosis and the hurricane and the broken relationship at work and whatever. Well, that's where God does his best work. You want to look at the broken pieces of life? That's where God does his best work. He takes it, he uses it, he makes something new out of it. He's doing the same thing to you and me in ways we can't even imagine. He's doing it in ways when we touch that relationship with that other person that we didn't even realize how he was going to use that. So that's what I mean by redemption. When we put God's work in the context of the greater story that is being told through the biblical witness and through the history of the church and through the history of the world, and we see the eschatological future, that is redemption. We need to look at our work as how does our work take part in redemption? How does our work have literally redeeming value? If we're told in the context of some other story about how I achieve the most for myself, or how my company maximizes its market share, we're going to end up with a whole different story and a whole different set of values. But when we evaluate our work and our business and our family lives in terms of how are we contributing to the redemption in God's story, that gives us a foundation that won't let us down. That gives us a foundational meaning that we can trust, and that will give us a framework for acting responsibly and for being responsible stewards of all the gifts he's put into our hands as business people. You want to have a chance to do that as a Christian and have impact? Be in business. That's what I tell my students. Can you think of a better place to do that? Can you think of a place where you're going to have more responsible stewardship than business over lives and resources and economic impact on people? That's a great place to be that. That's a great place to live into God's story of redemption and to help other people to look through that lens and to see the redeeming value of their work and the redemptive purposes of business in a broken society.